Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm just going to set up my camera, set up my mic for the YouTube. Just give me a moment, inshallah. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Dear respected brothers and sisters and friends, those of you who are watching live on YouTube, watching live on TikTok, I pray and hope that you are in the best state of health and Iman. We're going to be talking about what's been happening in Manchester. A lot of you have been messaging in the groups, in the live chat, and also in the some of you have messaged me and said, Shaykh, you haven't mentioned about what's happened in Manchester, and what are your views on what's happened in Manchester. So inshallah, we're going to talk a bit about Manchester and those attacks on those people, inshallah. So we will be talking about that. However, we're going to continue with the final part of our lessons, which have been titled the Islamic concept in parenting, and we are going to be live, alhamdulillah, discussing the final part live on YouTube. So if you're watching on the YouTube, a big salam to you, and hope and pray that each one of you is well on this day of Jumu'ah, and you're going to spend the last few precious moments of Jumu'ah with me, inshallah. So make sure that you subscribe and that you share the link with your family and friends so that they can benefit as well. So we're live on YouTube. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, live on YouTube, and we're live on TikTok. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to you on TikTok as well. I'm going to do my best to get back to your comments, your questions, to the best of my ability, inshallah. Yes, of course. Let's get straight into it. Right? So a lot of you have been asking me about these attacks on these two young men, and they said, Sheikh, you haven't mentioned anything. So what's your sort of views on what's happened? Now, of course, with everything, you have to look at the context. It's very important that you look at the context of what has happened. And then from that, you can determine whether the actions of whether these were police officers or the military or whoever these people were, seems like they have probably been inspired by IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, and the way they deal with young innocent Palestinians. I don't know where they've got their training from. And I'm not saying this just because the victims are Muslims or because they're Asians. Irrespective of their race and religion, the way I would see it is that these people, these young men, and let's not forget the old woman as well, the elder, they were humans, okay? And they most likely are probably law-abiding citizens, probably never committed a crime in their life, never been involved in a fight. But it happens. Things happen where we can all get involved in a fight, but that does not necessarily make us bad people. Do you understand? So again, in the context of what happened, these people were involved in a brawl or a fight. They weren't armed. They weren't terrorists. Again, I'm not looking at the race or the religion. I'm just generally saying that, these two young men, they weren't terrorists. They weren't harmed. They weren't going to attack the police. They weren't going to carry out an action, a terrorist action or anything like that. They weren't going around on a killing spree. They weren't going around on a killing spree. So yes, from my sort of what I've heard, and Allah knows best, I believe an argument happened, a brawl happened, and that led on to police getting involved. And then the footage which we have been seeing is of one young man who's on the floor, and they've got full control of him. I believe he was already tasered, so he's on the floor. He's posing absolutely no harm to anybody, including the officers. And then we just have this police officer who comes and kicks him in the face and stamps on his face. Now, again, in the context, yes, he didn't even try to resist. He's on the floor. He's helpless. There is no way in that position, lying flat on his stomach, face down, that he's going to attack anybody. Do you understand? And again, look at the context. They were involved in a family brawl, or something happened, right? But there weren't any weapons involved. They didn't go around killing and stabbing people. So again, he's on the floor, and now you've got full control of him. There was absolutely no need for that officer to come to firstly kick him in the face and to stamp him on his face as well. And then knowing the old woman who's there, and most likely she's a mother, and she's with her son for quite a while. She's on his side, and then when there's one clip where she's not by her son, but she's around that area, and then suddenly she's pushed away by the female officer. And there's absolutely no need for that, because again, this is an old woman who poses absolutely no threat to anybody. She would have seen what's happened. She would have known what's happened. And like every mother would be concerned for the well-being and safety of her son. So she's just standing there, in defense of her son. And then this young female officer, knowing that this woman is old, comes and pushes her away as well. So absolutely disgusting. Again, you might say, oh, but you're being biased because you're Muslim and they were Muslims, or because you're Asian. No, irrespective of the race, the religion, if that was a Christian, if that was an atheist, if that was a homosexual, a transgender, whoever that was on the floor, in the context of what happened, and that did not warranted the actions of the police officer. It's appalling. It did not warrant the actions of that police officer to behave in that way. And to be honest, I've only seen that kind of behavior from the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, who force brutality and terror against young Palestinian citizens who pose no threat to the IDF, who are very well equipped and armed. So that's kind of my reaction. That's sort of my unreserved opinion. And I believe that moving forward, yes, I believe there needs to be action taken. And if that was any individual, it's wrong. What's happened is wrong. And the police should come out. And I believe the statements have been released, and that officer should be suspended, and they should throw the law at him, and whatever you know uh, implications are going to come his way, whatever consequences are going to come his way, he is deserving of that, because that behavior is absolutely appalling. For any officer to behave in that manner when you're meant to be protecting the people, defending the people, and you come and you behave in that manner. I mean, there's so many people now who will be watching that clip, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, and will genuinely be will fear, and will be very sort of observant and conscious of the actions, that they don't end up in a scenario where they are treated in that manner as well. So it's not acceptable. It really isn't. And there's something there, I believe, when you closely observe the behavior of the police officer, there's something there, I think, to me, that indicates that, I mean, Allah knows what's in the hearts. But when you like want to get a chip off your shoulder, I believe there's something else that motivated him as a result of his actions. Okay, we don't know what that could be, but I know that 99.9% of the officers would not behave in that manner. What that something is, only He knows, and we believe only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what were his intentions behind his actions for behaving in that way, and for kicking him in the face, and for stamping him on his face. Again, genuinely, I believe that the police force are very good. They do a very good job, especially at airports. It's a difficult job, and most of them, alhamdulillah, very good, very helpful. I remember when we were going Spain, this is going back a couple of years, and my son, he was about 7, again, walking around in the airport, and I told him stay with us. So we were waiting to board our flight, and he decided to wander off, even though I called him a few times, and he just wandered off. Said, "Daddy, I'm only going there." So within 30 seconds, I looked, and he was gone. And as a parent, you would, naturally, you would panic. And so I saw the police were there, and I mentioned to them, and within a minute, they had allocated my son where he was, and they were very, assuring to me, and gave us a lot of comfort that, don't worry, your son will be fine. He would not leave the airport. So most of the officers, they do a great job. Uh, but I'm just looking at some of the comments. King is saying, but I've noticed Muslims seem to want to only twister on narrative. I don't know what that twist on narrative means. What I've said right from the beginning is, irrespective of the race and religion, irrespective of who the individual was, you cannot justify those actions. And if I wanted to come on the live stream, I would have come on that very evening, and I would have brought up this subject that very evening. I'm bringing up that subject for the first time tonight on Friday's live stream. And the reason why I thought I should mention it, because I've had a lot of people in the live comments asking me about my thoughts, and then I've had a few people who have been messaging me on TikTok and saying you haven't mentioned anything, and that it's only right that you do mention, so that your followers, can learn something from this. So I thought I would mention it. But I'm looking in the light of this of these two men being humans before their religion and their race, and nobody should be treated like that. And again, if you look at the context as well of what happened, then this behavior was not right. No, no, again, like I said, I, it might not even be race. I don't know. That I don't know. But again, if you closely monitor his behavior, there is something inside that led him on to behave in that way. Maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe he was having a bad day. He wasn't able to control his behavior. I've never seen that before. I've never seen police behave so aggressively in that manner against, in this incident, a young man who's on the floor, who's been tasered, and at this moment of time, he's causing absolutely no harm to anybody. Perhaps before that, he might have done, and hence maybe the clip that we haven't seen. There might be some video footage we haven't seen. Maybe I don't know. He might have attacked somebody, but by that time, if you've already put him on the ground, if he's on the ground now, he's on the floor, he's posing no threat to anybody, then there's no need to kick him in the face and to stamp him on his face. Again, look at the context. Yeah, look at the context. Is he a terrorist? Has he been going around on a killing spree? Has he been, has he killed people? Has he been stabbing people? Has he gone on a killing spree? Is he a wanted a man, a most wanted? Absolutely not. Like I said, he might have been a criminal. I doubt it, because both of these men are now walking free. He might have been an absolutely law-abiding citizen. Broke a woman's nose. We don't do that in England. Again, I've mentioned to you that there might have been some video coverage or something. I don't know whether that's been brought up in the cameras, if ever anybody's got that recorded or not. A woman's nose has been broken. Number one, was that deliberate? Was it accidental? In fights like this, where a lot of people get involved, punches go around. Some punches will land unintentionally. I'm not defending them. I'm not defending anybody. From what we've been told, a woman's nose was broken. That is unacceptable. If it was deliberate, it's not acceptable. If it's accidental, then these things do happen. It happens with the police. It happens with the riot police when there's a brawl, when there's a fight. Punches are being thrown. It happens. We see it all the time on a football pitch. Players get involved. Football, and if we've seen football fights happen, players get involved. Those players who are trying to stop the fight, who are trying to push the players apart, they end up getting punched as well. But again, we have to look at the evidence which has been presented to us, and by this stage, if this individual had broken the woman's nose, okay, if it's intentional, absolutely wrong. They should have charged him. They haven't been charged. They're walking free. So I don't believe any of these individuals would have broken the police officer's nose, or whoever this woman was. I don't believe they would have broken her nose. Otherwise, there would have been a charge. But by this point, the fact that he's lying down, he's surrendered, he's flat on his stomach, face down, and despite this, he's been kicked in the face, stamped on the face, and also his mother, his elderly mother, has also been pushed away harshly and aggressively. I'm afraid that is not acceptable. If that was the treatment of any individual, we would not accept that. A lot of people are saying that um, it's not about race. I don't know what. So Ricky says it's not about racist would have happened to anybody. We're not saying it's a racist attack. Nobody said. I have not said it's a racist attack. But as G-Force has said, it's poor policing. And I've only seen this kind of behavior in the IDF. A lot of messages coming from our followers on YouTube as well. A lot of comments as well. A lot of them are not related to the topic at the moment, so I won't be replying back to them. And even if you look at generally, if you look at the press and media, a lot of them have criticized the behavior of this police officer. I think it's only GBN News that's probably defended the behavior of this police officer and some isolated MPs, and we know who they belong to and what their motive is, who've come out and said, these officers should be applauded for the way they behaved, the fact that they just kicked an innocent man in the face, stamped on his face. They should be given a medal, you know. Uh, Otherwise, if you, for example, watch or listen to LBC, BBC, Sky News, generally, I mean, this news has now reached, the international. It's international news. It's been covered in most countries, and most countries have criticized the behavior of this police officer. The police officer has been suspended, of course. Again, moving forward, as the solution is, as I've said, that I know there's peaceful protests have taken place, and that's what they should be. They should be um, peaceful protests asking for action to be taken against the police officer. And if action has been taken against the police officer, then we should leave it at that. We should leave it at that. As I've mentioned, if he broke his, if the officer's nose was broken, okay, then the action prior to him being on the floor, that action, which we haven't seen, and whatever that action was, warranted that young man to be put on the floor. That's the first thing you need to understand. But by this stage, this man is now already on the floor. He surrendered, face down. It's after he has surrendered, he's causing absolutely no harm to anybody, that he is kicked in the face aggressively and stamped on his face. If these two young men, or if one of them or both, broke the nose of this police officer, I'm sure there would have been some charges pressed against them. There would have been some charges pressed against them. And to my understanding, at this moment of time, no charges have been pressed against them. So we don't even know who who it was that broke the officer's nose. Yes, I agree with the G-force that if somebody has surrendered, then there's no need to attack. By this time, if they've surrendered, now is your time to handcuff them, do what you need to with them, and take them away. They've surrendered. Yes, and again, I'd like to know uh, who this officer was whose nose was broken. Have they named the police officer? You're biased. Who's biased? Craigless. Who's biased? I'm not biased. Okay, so Craigless, what have I said that's biased? What have I said that's biased? No, Yasin. It's okay, Yasin. It's okay, Yasin. I'd like him to tell me how am I biased. What have I said that's biased? What have I said that's biased? Okay, let's take it. What the police have said, the statement that was released, that and knows was uh, you're only condemning the officer. I'm not only condemning the officer. I'm not only condemning the officer. You have just come on now. Have you been watching for the last 15 to 20 minutes? Have you been watching for the last 15 to 20 minutes? I'm sure you haven't. And I'm not going to repeat myself. I have not only condemned the police officer, I have said that if a police officer's nose was broken and whatever took place, whatever action that happened, remember, again from the information we have received, there was a fight that broke out. It was a brawl between two families. Now, as a Muslim, I would say Allah knows best. There was a brawl between two families. Okay, in that brawl, in that fight, most likely the officer would have been involved, and they might have been punched. They might have been punched, accidental or purely intentional. So that we condemn. Okay, but as all humans, we get into fights, we get into brawls. Airports, there's always tension at airports. I travel a lot. Okay, and I'll be traveling again very soon, within the next couple of weeks. There's a lot of tension that goes on in airports. Okay, on the flights, you see so many videos, don't you, on YouTube, and fights breaking out on the planes and that. There's always tension in the airports, especially through security. And then people, once the airplane lands and they're going out on their trolleys, and everyone's in that tension. Everybody wants to quickly get off the plane. Everybody wants to get their luggage. Everybody wants to quickly leave the airport. There's always tension in the airport. Okay. Now again, I say that whatever action that happened, be prior to the evidence, the videos we've seen, and if the police officer was deliberately punched, their nose was broken, then of course we should condemn that. That's absolutely wrong. And I've also mentioned that if these two individuals were responsible for punching the police officer deliberately in the nose, and a nose has been broken, would that not come under GBH? Would there have not been some kind of charge put on them? Do you understand? Would there have not been some charge put on them? Yeah, you're right, G-force. But they've been released. So I'm going by what I've seen, the coverage, the video that's gone viral, and by this time, this individual is on the floor, he's surrendered, and he's been kicked in the face, and he's been stamped on as well. And also the old woman who's posing absolutely no threat to the police. She's standing there, concerned about her son and the way her son's been beaten up, and aggressively the police officer comes and pushes her away. If I wanted to make an issue out of it, I would have come on that same evening. I would have made a live stream. I mean, when did this incident exactly happen? Does anybody know? What day did this happen? Was it Monday or Tuesday? Anybody? When did this incident take place? I don't even know the exact date. And the only reason I brought up today is because a lot of people wanted me to mention it. They said, Shaykh, can you please mention your thoughts on this? And then moving forward, what should we do? And I've already mentioned that. And I've also praised the police as well, because they do have a very difficult job. Let us not just criticize the police for this one incident that's happened. The police have a very, very difficult job to do. Okay, we don't know about that. That's not right. Okay, because the lady's face was visible. Okay, so as I've mentioned, I'm just going through some of the comments as well. Yeah, so as I've mentioned, I've already praised the police. They have a very difficult job to do, and this was an isolated incident, so we shouldn't generalize the police and say all of the police are like this, because most police ain't. And they are very good, very supportive, and they do their job fantastically well. Some of my closest friends are police officers who come and they pray at our masjid as well. They pray at our masjid as well. And we do have the police who come in regularly to our Iqra Academy as well, and have workshops, So I would always praise the police. They risk their lives for us, just like the fire service, just like the paramedics. We're very fortunate to have these services, like everybody else does. But of course, this was going to go viral on social media. Of course, it was, and rightly so. and the police officer has now been suspended. And I think we should leave the matter now to the law and let the law deal with it. And I think we should now bring this to an end. We should now bring this subject to an end. Moving forward, we need to be very vigilant as well. A lot of lessons would have been learned from this as well. And I think any individual, whether you are Muslim, non-Muslim, don't get paranoid. When you're traveling, you just need to be very patient. Just understand the job of the police officers. If they do come and they want to do a random search, don't think, oh, it's because I'm a Muslim. Oh, it's because I've got a beard. Oh, it's because I'm wearing a jilbab or I'm wearing a jilbab. No, it's fine. Let them do their job. As long as you are in the clear, you're innocent, you've got nothing to hide, alhamdulillah, you know, uh, you make their job easier for them. Do you understand? But don't, stand up to them and say, oh, why do you want to search me? Why do you want me to open my bag? But is it because I'm Muslim? You're being racist. They're not being racist. They're just doing their job. They're doing their job. Okay, and I'm going to bring that subject to an end. I've had my say on it. So those of you who have been texting me and saying, Sheikh, you haven't mentioned anything about the attacks in Manchester, I have now, alhamdulillah. And you know what? They've got Ahmad Yaqub. Yeah? The Ahmad Yaqub, who's now taken this case on. So again, we'll just wait and see what happens. Okay? So shall we continue with the final part of Islamic concept of parenting? And I hope that you have been watching. Okay, you have been watching for the last 4 days because we've been talking about parenting. Okay, and yesterday we finished off on some very valuable advice that I disclosed with you, and that was that as parents, sometimes we don't get everything right. As parents, we don't get everything right, and when we do make a wrong decision, it's only right for you, even as a parent, to apologize to your child. So you've accused them of doing something. Just give me a moment. I'm going to sort this light out. So you've accused them of doing something, and yet they were totally innocent. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you apologizing. Don't think to yourself, why should I apologize? So I'm the parent. I don't need to apologize. No. The wisdom behind you apologizing to your child when you make a wrong decision is that what you're teaching your child is that whenever you make a mistake, you say sorry, you apologize. Because children generally are very, very forgiving. So don't make it a habit, okay, that you accuse them of doing something, turns out they're innocent, and you don't apologize. We learned that yesterday. We also learned the importance that the Sunnah teaches us to be their friend, to be their companion. Because, for example, when they reach the age of teens, the hormones are everywhere. You're going to see a major change in their behavior, in their attitude, especially like when you've had your first child, and you experience it for the first time. Because generally, the second and the third and the fourth time, generally you kind of get used to it. But with your first child, when they reach that age, and you see a massive change, and it's like a culture shock to you. Like, this is not my child. This isn't how I've raised him. But it happens, okay? And that is the time where you're meant to be at their side, understand they're no longer 5 years old. They're not going to be observant now. They're not going to be obedient now. They are going to have a say. So you need to up your game. You need to up your game as well. And that's where we finished off. So we're going to conclude. And we've got about 10 minutes to finish. And we've got 10 minutes to finish, inshallah. We're going to talk about when your children break the rules. When your children break the rules, what must happen? Remember, the only person that you can control is you. The only person that you can control is you. Okay? And there will come a time that your children will break the rules. You're going to have rules in the house. Your children will come and they will break those rules. Okay? And that's, beyond the control of your scope. But you need to educate them. And you need to remind them. You need to know their environment and make changes accordingly. Change the environment if needed. But don't be absent-minded, let alone physically absent. So your child likes doing something. You need to take an interest in that and try to support him in that. Your child likes football, likes watching football. Take him out to play football. Wants to go to a football match? Take him to a football match. But as I've mentioned, you need to now be a companion to them. You need to now support them. So be attentive. Teach them the principles. So the rules that you've set in your house, have you explained to them why these rules are there? Have you spoken to them about the consequences? Or have you not just bothered explaining to them? When they break the rule, what do? You start shouting and yelling. So if you're connected to Allah, they will stay connected to Allah as well. Remember, you are their role model. And true love is from Allah. So connect them and keep them connected to the source. Okay? So teach them, spend time with them, and keep them connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't give them a phone. Don't allow them to be freely, independently on social media, especially from a young age. They don't need it. A 5-year-old does not need a phone. A 10-year-old does not need to be on Snapchat, does not need to be on Instagram, does not need to be on TikTok. Today a child is born. What happens? He has an iPad. Already given an iPad. And I advocate for delaying this. People will tell you that there are apps that will help them. But what are the dangers? Addiction, reliance. They lose their independency. Impact on their behavior. And you don't even realize any of these things. You're saying, oh no, but you know what? It's fine. There's nothing dangerous. Look, I don't allow them to download games. I don't allow them to watch anything they're not meant to. It's like a child. When you get a child accustomed to just watching nursery rhymes and then feeding them, or you put on the nursery rhymes for that child to go to sleep, it's not just about your child watching those, but your child now will become accustomed to, it will become an addiction. So your child will no longer now eat until you put him on or put her on whatever it is, Cocoa Melon or Peppa Pig or whatever the thing is that you've accustomed your child to. If you put your child to bed and you put nursery rhymes on, you put a phone on for him, you put the television on for him, now he won't go to sleep until you do that. Because what you've done now, you've trained them in that. You've got them accustomed to that. It's become now a habit of theirs. It's in their DNA now. They won't eat until you switch something on. And if you don't switch something on for them, they won't eat. They're going to cry. They're going to yell. They're going to have a tantrum. So you need to stay on top of this. You need to have restrictions and tell them why there are restrictions. 20 years back, we were competing for social identity in the real world, impressing our handful of friends. But nowadays, they're competing in the real. They're not competing. Well, some of them are competing in the real world, but they're also competing in the virtual world as well. And you see that some people, they want validation in both worlds. So they end up living two different lives. They have their social life, the real life, and they behave a certain way there. They do things a certain way. And then they have their virtual life, the virtual world, online, their TikTok, their 100,000, their million followers, that they have, and they have to live to impress them, and then they have to live a different life to impress their family. So there is a identity crisis out there. People don't they no longer they don't any longer know who they are and where they belong. They're living two different lives. So restriction can only help them, and if you allow them freely to be on the phone, and you put a phone in their hands, then you need to understand then some of the ramifications that can happen. They will have unrestricted access to the world, and do they really need that? And bedroom is a no for any screen. Laptop, iPads must not be in the bedroom. Your child does not need any of these screens in the bedroom. Otherwise, you're going to have big problems getting that child to go to sleep on time, to wake up on time. Over time, you build a trust, and when you feel that they're old enough and they understand, perhaps you can put something in their room. To conclude, I will finish off with the alternatives. And as a parent, safe space is your spend time with them. Check on recreational activities, what they like, what they enjoy. Spend time with them. If they like board games, play board games with them. My children, they like Uno, so we play Uno. My little princess, my daughter Princess Rahma, she's very good in Uno. She's only 7 years old, and she's always winning. There's Ludo. They like playing Ludo as well. So board games, if they like board games, play board games with them. They like noughts and crosses, play noughts and crosses. They like football, play football. Bike riding, learn. If you can't yourself ride a bike, learn to ride a bike. Spend that time with them, because you won't get this time again with them. And they need to also, at the same time, don't isolate them. They need to learn also to navigate in the real world outside. So keep a balance. Yeah, to be a balance. Don't just be a helicopter parent. Helicopter parent who just like a parachute parent only comes in, when there's an extreme dire need, when things are like just about to end and in danger, and then you decide, I need to take action. So be a parent of action, not a parent who react. And with that, we conclude the 5-part series of the Islamic concept of parenting. It's a great blessing Allah has given us children. Great blessing. We should spend time with them, educate them, learn ourselves as parents. We're also on a journey as well. Wa alaikum salam, Jari. We're also on a journey, and we should also learn with them, grow up with them as well. And they are our sarqa jariyah. Do you understand? They are our sarqa jariyah. It's adhan time in a few moments, and I'm going to be leaving for the masjid. The masjid is 40 seconds walk away. 40 seconds walk away. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair for watching, for liking, for following, and for everything else that you've been doing. Those of you on TikTok, you've been following, you've been very patient. Jazakallah khair for all of the kind messages. Those of you who have been sending inappropriate messages, jog along, because this platform isn't for you. This platform is for those people who want to learn Islam, for genuine people. For genuine people. Everybody who's on YouTube, whether you are from Uganda, India, Pakistan, wherever you're from, جزاك الله خير for watching. I'm going to finish off. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر لي ولكم رسالة مسلمين فاستغفروا إن الغفور الرحيم. فجزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.